Hey, it's Josh here. I just want to take a quick second before we get started to express our gratitude and appreciation to anyone who's listening, whether you're consuming this by download, whether you're listening on our website or following us on Instagram or TikTok, however that is. We thank you. Doing that lets us know, hey, that there's somebody out there. And as long as we're entertaining one person, then it just makes everything worth it. So on behalf of myself and everyone here at Game Rage, thank you. All right, now enjoy the show.
All right, welcome to another episode of Game Rage Anime, where we tell you what to like and you don't have no choice in the matter.
I like that.
Me too. I second that motion.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Frank. I'm here with some other asshole.
Oh yeah, it's Josh. I'm here too.
And the third wheeler, fucking Adam. So what it is,
Would it be?
what it do.
All right, so at the end of our, not the end, but last episode we talked on some subjects about how animation, music, and all that can lead into a great scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent you guys with some homework.
Yeah.
With the first one being one of the most iconic moments in Dragon Ball history being Gohan surpassing Super Saiyan, which would later be called Super Saiyan 2.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I sent you guys 4 different versions of that clip. I sent you the Funimation dub. I sent you the the Ocean dub.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sent you the original Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent you Team 4 Star's version of it.
Right.
Now, let's start with you, Josh. Out of those 4, which one was the worst?
Oh yeah, without a doubt, it was the Ocean one, man. That thing sucked. That was horrible. Everything about it was bad. For me, the only redeeming quality of it, which it's just because it was funny, was when he actually turns Super Saiyan 2. It literally sounds like he's fucking someone. Like he's just like, it just sounds like he's just coming and coming. That's like what it sounds like, and it was funny for that part. But other than that, it was terrible. I didn't like that one at all. That was the worst.
Adam?
I second the motion, and for me it was Android 16's voice.
Yeah.
I thought it was AIDS.
You know what else was bad was the music, like and the quality of the voice, like the recordings for the voice. It just sounded as if they were in a gravel pit, just rubbing gravel all over the microphones as they were recording. It just was like it was bad, man. Mm. So what? I'm just curious because I never watched the Ocean dub. So what was that? Was that just another company that got rights to do it?
They were the ones, if I remember correctly, were the ones that got the rights for the Canadian distribution. And then they also got some in the United States. Because a lot of people grew up with both, either the Funimation or the Ocean dubs. I am glad to have grown up with the Funimation dub.
Right, yeah. That's the ones I remember. I don't really remember any.
I did see some of the Ocean dubs, especially when I went to Mexico with my cousins. They thought they were doing me a favor by giving me the Ocean dub one instead of the Spanish one.
Yeah.
The Spanish one was better. But that's how I saw that one scene I showed you guys with Vegeta's "You Will Not Escape My Wrath."
Right. Uh-huh.
Which I'm not even 100% sure was Ocean dub, but because it doesn't sound like oh man, I can't remember his name. The guy that actually plays Vegeta for Funimation. Yeah. It doesn't sound like him, so I'm gonna say it wasn't.
And you know what's funny too is this is maybe not even on. Yeah, maybe you'll ask this, but I don't know. But I just thought it was funny how the general gist of what they were saying was similar, but a lot of the lines were really different. Were not like the translation or whatever you want to call it. It wasn't just, you would think, okay, if you're going to translate this to do the dub, right, from anime or not from anime, from Japanese to English, you would think it would just be exactly the same across the board because, you know, the translation is the translation. But they kind of, at least with the Ocean one, they definitely, I understand when the English translation is different than the original Japanese dub, because obviously the words don't just directly translate over, and then obviously with acting, you know, things kind of change up a little bit, the way they say things or the way they use a word. But it's funny to see how they were all, well, other than the Team 4-Star, because that's just a parody, but that's understandable, obviously. But the other one, the 3 of the other ones were just basically almost completely different in the dialogue that they actually chose to use, which I thought that was interesting.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now that you said it was the worst one, what would you guys say is the best one? Josh?
Oh, let's see. I thought that overall I do think that the Japanese version was probably the best. The original Japanese version. The Funimation one was very good too. I also enjoyed it, but there's just something about and again, I do hate reading. Let me just reiterate that. I've said that before, but I just hate reading. Okay, and when I'm watching a show, it's very distracting to look at something and have to look at the artwork. Maybe I'm just dumb, but to have to look at or bad at multitasking, but to have to look at, oh, okay, here's this beautiful artwork and this scene playing out, and then I got to look at the bottom so I can read what the fuck they're trying to say. That I hate doing that. However, it is far superior most cases, the Japanese version. The way they do you can feel the words hit harder with if they're saying something to the effect of, let's just say, oh, I'm gonna kill you. It's instead of saying, I'm gonna kill you, it's like, I'm not saying in Japanese, right? But it's the way the inflections they put into it and the oomph behind it. It just sounds more dramatic, I guess, is maybe what I'm trying to say. And that could be why it's better. Also, I felt like the musical choice that they used in that one was a little more appropriate, I guess, for the scene. Because the one in the ocean one, the music in the background there kind of sounded shitty. And then there was one, I can't remember which one it was. It might have been that one, the Japanese one, but there was one where there was no music in a certain part of it, where there was no background music.
It might have been the Funimation.
It might have been the Funimation one, because that actually was pretty legit. I thought that was cool. And then in terms of also about music, I did like the one thing I really loved about the Team 4-Star one, which it's hard to kind of compare it because it is apples and oranges somewhat, because they're not doing a direct translation of it. But man, I am a sucker for whatever that shit's called at the end when you have the music going and you have that just cold hard, I don't know if it's a cold, like there's a cold open, I don't know if it's like a cold ending or whatever, but that hard stop where it's the music playing and then it's just the logo. It just comes out of nowhere and you're like, oh shit, it's over. I don't know, man. I'm a sucker for that. I love that.
I also know this though too. At the time, we didn't know, because Team 4-Star was already giving out the hints that they were
gonna be done or something. Yeah,
but we didn't know for sure. So at this point, we were literally at the point saying, "Oh shit, this could be the final episodes of each of this." And then they announced that they're gonna do episode 60, part 1, 2, and 3, back to back, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, well, week, as opposed to several months in between.
right.
They were gonna release them like almost right back to back.
Yeah.
So they pretty much told us, it's 3 parts. So when that shit happened, it's like literally, if you ever watch the reaction videos to this, they all have the same reaction where they're like, "Oh fuck!" Like, "Oh man!"
And I didn't know that going into it, because I haven't really been super deep into Team 4-Star stuff. But knowing that now, that makes it even more. That makes it even more awesome, because it's I don't know what it is. I just love that. I'm a sucker for that, man. I just love that hard stop, and then just the music's going, and it just goes right into it, and it's like, that's it, it's done. So, what about you, Adam?
Adam, what would you say was the best one?
I have to agree with Josh, and I'm not picking these because just to say, but whatever Josh is saying is convincing to me. We all watched this at different times
separately too. Yeah,
yeah. And we didn't even talk about I don't think we talked about our own personal opinions about any of them. Like prior to sitting down. No, yeah,
this is the first time we're talking about it.
Yeah, I'd say the Japanese one was probably the strongest. The only thing that I'd knock it for is I don't know why, but for a scene like that, I don't want lyrics. I don't want vocals, or I don't think, because then you have the dialogue being spoken, and then you have like the lyrics come up in the song as well, and I'm like, kind of takes away from it in a sense. So that's why I preferred the instrumental version, I think, in the Funimation version. And that's, I don't know. I think I preferred that for that specific the Japanese dub. I also enjoyed because I think every other one besides the Japanese dub had Gohan contemplating achieving Super Saiyan 2 And this one, they didn't have that. It just went straight to
Yeah.
fucking. I'm like, that's awesome. I like this better because nothing illustrates anger better than fucking just going into it. Right after Android 16 said, let it go, he's like, let it go. And then as soon as, he fucking gets his head
stomped in.
He gets
Yeah.
his fucking head stomped in. And then, not long after Gohan gets his, he just goes into full rage mode and just ready to bust ass.
Oh yeah.
So I definitely say the Japanese dub was better with a slight knock on the music. I wish they would have taken away the lyrics, but I understand like that maybe that's more custom to Japanese dubs that they allow that type of music like with actual vocals and stuff. Vocals, excuse me.
Okay, interesting. Well, I want to say personally, my least favorite one is also the Ocean dub. And for the longest time, my favorite was always, I could never choose really between Funimation and the Japanese version since I grew up on the Funimation one, but the Japanese one is just so much, like Josh said, it feels more epic, more emotional. But now I honestly, truly do feel that the Team 4-Star one is probably my favorite. Because literally everything that's great about the Funimation one is in the Team 4-Star one. What's great about the Japanese version is in Team 4-Star's version. Now, even they themselves said the reason that people would say, "Oh, you guys did this scene better than the Japanese version." He goes, "Yeah, because we had the power of hindsight. We're able to do things that they didn't even think about because they had to do it right then and there. We had 20 years. In 20 years, we were able to take a scene and live with it for 20 years and then come up with a different idea for it, and it worked better because we had 20 years to reflect on it." Well, in this scene, I think in the Team 4-Star version, Android 16's speech was better. Even with that little joke, the little two jokes they had in there with Vegeta's dad and the birds. There's in the show, even in the Japanese or the original versions, he was obsessed with birds. And so on Team 4-Star, the joke was that he was overly obsessed with birds. So that's why he goes, "That's why I care to love the birds and the things that are not birds." So besides that and the whole Vegeta joke, I felt that joke was better because I think it attacked his pacifism better. He literally says, "Hey, I get it. You have some daddy issues, but look at Vegeta. Look at me. I get it that you've gone through a lot of trauma, but look at Trunks. He can tell you stories." And it all ends with, "And then he died too." He goes, "You ain't special, kid. I mean, you're special, but not because of your pacifism. And it's holding you back." And I don't know. For me, I felt that Team 4-Star again did that better. And I love the English translation of that song. I love the way how they did it. And then, like Josh was saying, the editing they did, the framing, the pacing, especially how they ended the music right as Gohan's tears ended, and then it ends the episode because that was supposed to symbolize that was the end of young Gohan. And then Toriyama did nothing with him until the new movie. But I don't know. Personally, that's why I liked it. But again, that comes from years of hindsight, which they had the other guys didn't have the advantage of. Right. So if you take that out of the equation, I would probably lean towards the Japanese version because I really, really love that song. Even the Japanese version I like, but the guy's voice is a little off, so I do prefer whatever his name is that they got to do the translation. But yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, how do you think about because I kind of brought this up a little bit, but to me it was a little bit almost. Yeah, I get it. They're doing a dub, right? Team 4-Star. They're doing technically a dub, which is what Funimation and Ocean technically did.
If you want to bring up Funimation, what Team 4-Star did with Dragon Ball Z, Funimation did with Shin-Chan.
Well, no, that's what I was about to say. So, looking at the context, right, of you got these three translations that are supposed to be serious, and they are the translations of the show, basically, right? That's what they are. Yeah, there's some artistic expression taken with each of them a little bit. excluding the Team 4-star. But if you look at Shin-Chan, that show was essentially, it had nothing to do with what they were actually dubbing it to be about, essentially. So Team 4-star, yeah, they're sticking more to their dub, because that's what it is. It's a dub, right? So their version of the dub is more, it's comedy based. So that's where I kind of feel it's almost apples and oranges almost. It's yes, I will give them, they did this scene justice. I felt like I don't think that they fucked it up or anything. I think they did a great job with paying homage essentially to the original material. But I don't think that, because like you said, they slipped in a joke here, or they slipped in a little joke, a couple of jokes here. Whereas in the original, it's okay. That was not the tone of the original. It was almost like they're doing kind of half of a 4chan, or no, I keep saying 4chan, goddammit. Half of a Shin-Chan type deal, and then half of also keeping it like a serious dub, essentially, So that's why I kind of feel like the team, and not to take away, I'm not knocking them or taking away from them. I want to make that clear. But I just think it's kind of almost comparing, like I said, apples to oranges, where the purpose of the Team 4-star dub is more comedy-based, parody-based, as opposed to being just an actual dub translation, a serious translation of the actual original source material. So I think that's why it's kind of hard for me to just kind of pick. I think they're their own category, really, is kind of, I guess, what I'm trying to say in a really long-winded fucking way. Is I think that the Team 4-star version of Dragon Ball Z Abridged it can't really be compared to any other dubs, just because I think it's kind of its own category of dub. And again, I think they do great. I think they have a lot of funny stuff in their dubs. So, or abridged, or whatever it's called. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's where I kind of. So, what do you think? How do you feel about that? Does that kind of, maybe, to frame it that way, does that maybe change, not necessarily your opinion, I guess, but does it? How do you respond to that, I guess, of what I just said about it's almost apples and oranges? Do you agree? Do you disagree?
I would for most, when case with most abridged series, but when it comes to like certain abridgers, like Team 4-star and Little Karibo,
Little Karibo,
the efforts they put into their shows are
right.
Not to say anything bad against other abridged series, because I watch a lot of abridged series.
Yeah,
but specifically, they capture the magic of abridging, where you can take something that everybody loves, still keep it the same
general storyline, I guess.
Yeah, but still make it something new and fresh.
Right.
Like, I watch Team 4-star is currently doing a whole. They're rewatching the series and doing commentary and talking about like the thought process behind some of the writing scenes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they talk about, like, it's funny. Kaiser Neko fixes a lot of animation errors in editing. Like, there was one scene where he was showing it where Piccolo was literally just cross-eyed for no fucking reason. And he had to go in there and spend like a good amount of time fixing his fucking eyes. Yeah. Because the studio didn't have the time to fix things, so they just had to rush out this movie. And I know there's times where they just come up with amazing lines that aren't comedy. Like, there's a scene where when Android 16 is fighting Imperfect Cell. He throws Cell and it makes him go into a hole in the floor. And so I was like, oh my god, what's happening? And then you see 16's charging up his arm cannons to shoot a laser at him. He's like, wait, I think I see a light. And then 16's like, good, walk towards it. It's a fucking great line. And in the original, none of that was in there. Just whoosh. So there was no dialogue, but they made that scene a little bit better. Same thing with Piccolo. They had a similar line where, because Piccolo at this point had fused with Kami being the Japanese word for God. Piccolo was fighting Android 17, and 16 tells him, hey, I think he fused with Kami. He's like, what the hell's a Kami? And then Piccolo's, it means God. And then he shoots a beam at him and says, now bow. I mean, shit like that is fucking... I know I'm not doing it justice because I'm just repeating the line. Yeah. But watching the scene, they're fucking great. And again, it's the power of hindsight. Because you're able to come up with shit that, oh man, that they couldn't do because I mean, meme culture wasn't a thing back then, and
Right.
they have a lot of fucking jokes based around meme culture.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's not it's its own category, but it's more like it feels like a right way to do remakes. If you get my drift, it's a remake, but it kind of isn't.
Right.
It's a reimagination, while not rebuilding it from the ground up.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
hell, like what's his name? The guy that plays Vegeta in the Funimation dubs. He straight up says that if anything ever happens to him, the Lanny Pator, whatever. That's how his Nick Land is his actual name. He says that he puts it in his will that he should take over for Vegeta. And like, there was a huge thing about like when Chris Harris died, that little Karibo should take over the role because of how great he did as Frieza in Team 4 Stars of Bridge series. And there's a lot of people that are in voice acting now because of the roles they did in Abridging. I wouldn't say directly because, but like if you watch any series, especially Little Karibo and Team 4 Star from episode 1, and then watch the latest episode, you'll notice the magnitude of change in voice acting. Like, because everybody was just, they just did it, especially
They're
Little
just
Karibo.
fucking around essentially.
Yeah, and then they eventually became legit voice actors, literally
Yeah.
all of them. I think Little Karibo has actually done work. Hell, Team 4 Star even were hired to do the English dub of an anime movie.
Yeah.
So it's like, does that make them legitimate or not? That's that's subjective.
I think that does. I mean, it's like if you were to take, let's just say, some unknown podcast on the internet that nobody listens to, and then over a year or two, all of a sudden, oh man, now these guys end up on the radio, like they have their own radio show. Let's just say that would be kind of like the equivalent of that, So yeah, I do think it probably they went from bootlegging essentially to being an actual alcohol distribution company. Essentially,
Yeah.
basically, is kind of what it seems like. But I mean, that's cool. Good, and that's cool. That's part of the, I don't know, the magic of, and that's not to say that again, not to try to take away from anything of what they've done or anything, but I just think that it is kind of a separate category, and it's a little, it's almost its own thing, because you said it's the benefit of hindsight, right? You can go back and see, okay, maybe something, or I mean, there is, I don't know if this is a joke or whatever that's made, but let's just say, you could tie in, now that it's been so long, you could tie in a 9/11 joke to something in that Dragon Ball Z, but that didn't exist when that happened, right? That's an example. It's probably a shitty example, but that's an example of, you could make reference to things that hadn't even happened when this was originally created, and maybe that scene fits for something that is, this is cool, this could work here. So yeah, no, I think that's definitely.
That's such a weird example.
Yeah, well, I'm a fucking weirdo, so what do you expect, all right?
Like, if anything,
9/11.
if anything, what Frank was saying about acknowledging what the thing is, and I guess in my own words, enriching what the characters are, because it is being able to sit with something for so long that not only do you understand the narrative of Dragon Ball Z, you understand each character, and if you're somebody that's voice acting for that one specific person, whether that's Android 16 or Vegeta, you get in that mindset. What would Vegeta say in this specific line? Because you're almost writing like fan fiction, and it's like and maybe that's where it comes from a good place, that they're not just settling for the comedic element. They're adding to it in a very humble and what would be the word to say on to
I feel like they're just giving it the respect it deserves, I guess, and they're not trying to change it from what it was, but they're just trying to enhance it or make it better. I guess.
So and then for them to be, I guess you would say, legitimate voice actors to dub, for them to say that they're able to have a job, at least in one occasion, to do a legitimate acting gig as far as voice acting goes, to do that from scratch, like to do an abridged series that shouldn't have been anything but fun, and then have it turn into like a legitimate gig. That's kind of that's interesting, because I would say that as far as voice acting goes, and maybe maybe this is my limited scope of anime, but I don't know how well English voice actors are recognized as far as animes go. But for those guys, that must mean a hell of a lot, because as far as I understand, when it comes to voice acting in Japan, these guys don't just decide one day that they're going to go into voice acting for Japanese animes and shit.
Yeah.
Actually, that's kind of redundant. Just for animes, I guess, because
Yeah.
but they actually go to school, and it's like they actually go to school or an academy.
Yeah, they receive training.
Actual training. So
Yeah.
In Japan, it's actually a respected position.
right. So in that regard, I guess you could say that, in spite of ironically it being funny, they kind of added more legitimacy to English voice acting.
Right, yeah.
So,
And you know, it's funny too. If you look back at just the early 2000s to like 2010s, I guess, let's say, there were like 9 guys that were voice actors in the animes, right? Now, I'm being facetious a little bit, but it was all like the same guys.
I was going to say the exact same thing. The only people that I can really think of as far as voice acting for English voice actors is Steve Bloom, who was the voice of Spike Spiegel.
Right.
And Laura Bailey, who was the voice of Shin-Chan.
Yeah, she's in everything.
She's in everything.
And then
She's also one of the members of Critical Role.
yeah. And, well, Johnny Young Bosch he's also the voice of the main character in essentially
for
almost every other.
I know
Code
it's not-
Geass. He's Ichigo in Bleach. He's,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, he's in a shit ton of stuff. He's the main
Sasuke
character.
and Naruto.
Yeah, Sasuke and Naruto. Yeah,
But those guys are kind of the elite. There's
But
people
that's
there's everybody else.
Yeah, but
you might not know.
And what's funny though too is some of the smaller play animes that were not necessarily pumped up, or they only maybe had one 13 episode run or something like that. Some of those guys are in those too. I mean, they were putting in the work on even tiny projects, and they were just trying to probably. I was just saying they're probably just trying to get paid as much as they could to just keep afloat for whatever.
I don't even think it was more for credit.
True.
Hey,
Yeah,
look, I've done all of this.
right.
work.
Yeah, and then also they're in a lot of those guys are in video games too, or
Well, I was about to say,
regular American cartoons or whatever.
for those who don't know, Critical Role is a bunch of voice actors led by Matt Mercer doing a D&D ran campaign, and they're literally all professional voice actors, every single one of them, being Laura Bailey, Matt Mercer. I can name them all, but every year on Halloween they do a little joke where they all dress up, and one year they did it where they all dressed up as one of the characters they voiced. And oh my god, I can't remember her name now. I can't remember her fucking name now. Fuck, it's pissing me off. Anyways, so Laura Bailey was dressed as Kat from Gears of War. Travis Willingham was dressed as Two-Face. One of them was dressed as Gara, and she was just dressed in fatigues. She goes, "Yeah, for that one time, because that one time we all played that role, Soldier 17."
Yeah, no, that's funny. That is funny.
the only instance I could think of American voice actors in the same regard as some of the top voice actors for Japanese animes, like Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill for well, I guess even Tara Strong, because she did a lot of voice acting for a lot of American animation. But as far as like everybody else, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I don't really.
I mean, I guess you could also make a point for. Oh my god, what's wrong with me and names today? Darth Vader. Fuck.
Oh, yeah, Sam or not Samuel Jackson. James Earl Jones. Yeah, there you go. I mean, yeah, I guess that could be true. I mean,
He did two things though. No offense, like
voice, and then he was in the Sandlot.
Yeah,
and then he was in
Mufasa, like Lion King,
Yeah.
Darth Vader.
Don't forget Conan. He actually
yeah,
played a role.
he was actually in the movie with Conan. Yeah,
With those weirdly blue eyes.
yeah. But hey,
Hey, dude, 3 movies. Probably,
it's the only 3 movies he ever needed to do.
yeah, to hear the lamentations of the women, or what is it? You know that line from
Yeah,
Conan?
he says, Conan, what is best in life? And then he says, to see your enemy driven before you and to hear the lamentations of their women. Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, what do you got? What else you got?
What else you got, Frankie?
I hope this is all you, dude.
So the next one was I asked you guys if you could watch episode 19 of the first season of Demon Slayer.
That is not.
That's
I was not assigned.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I don't remember that. I remember you sent me the clip of
All Might.
All Might. Yeah, we watched that.
I watched that, and
Was that what you were trying to send us? Was the
Nope.
Demon Slayer?
I couldn't find a clip, so I specifically told you to just watch. I had to ask you to watch the whole episode because I couldn't find a clip that captured that scene perfectly.
Yeah, I don't think I.
Well, what was that? What was that All Might clip then? Was that part of it too?
Yeah, that's next.
Oh,
I was gonna talk about that first. Yeah, see.
I must have left that. I must have just skipped over that. Because I only saw that YouTube clip. I didn't see that part of it. Did I send that to you, Adam?
You only sent me the.
I sent you the clips.
I don't know anything about Demon Tail or whatever.
Demon Tail. I don't know anything about Demon Tail.
What was it called?
Demon Slayer.
Demon Slayer, yeah.
Demon Slayer. I combined Fairy Tail and fucking Demon Slayer.
2 animes he's never seen before. I mean, at least I've seen Fairy Tail. All right, well, whatever. We'll circle back on that one. What's next? The
All Might fight.
all right.
All right, I'm gonna be honest. I watched this thing and there was a lot of shit going on, and
Yeah,
I,
it was.
That was my thing. Was showing that the reason I wanted to bring that one up is that was one of the most pivotal moments in that anime. This whole fight, this whole thing, and
Just for clarification for people that don't know, what episode of what season is it specifically?
fuck if I know. I didn't know. I don't know the number for this
All
one.
right, then who does he fight? Who's he fighting?
It's All Might fighting One for All.
Yeah, and it's the first time they fight.
No, this is in the first time in the anime, but
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, is the chronological order of the anime? This is their first fight essentially.
in the anime shown, no, yes, but in the actual storyline, no. This is like their 4th or 5th fight.
Okay.
Because there was this thing I remember having a debate with one of my friends about the difference between. I guess this can only be answered by you. Is the fight between Gaara and Rock Lee in the tuning exams versus Naruto versus Sasuke at the Valley of the End at the end of regular Naruto? Which one do you remember better?
I mean, probably Sasuke and Naruto. But man, that Rock Lee and Gaara fight was fucking great, though. I mean,
Was saying most people don't remember
that one even at all.
No, Naruto versus Sasuke.
Oh, really?
When everyone always points out which is the best fight in Naruto, that one's always a contender. Is Gaara versus Rock Lee. It's beautifully animated. All this shit.
Yeah.
It's fucking great. But this is the first time these two has met. Sure, we had little scenes with Gaara being fucking a mass murdering psychopath. And we have scenes with Lee being a goofy motherfucker that just likes to throw hands.
That's true.
It was just 1 or 2 episodes each. Like,
Yeah.
not a big build up for them. And then the fight was just out of nowhere fucking amazing. Where with Naruto versus Sasuke, it was literally the whole series was building up to this fucking moment. And so if you were to say, show somebody who's never seen Naruto both those fights,
Yeah.
the Naruto versus Sasuke fight is going to mean nothing to them. Because they're not part of that build up to it.
Right.
Eric from Blind Wave said it best. When he finished watching that episode, he goes, "Oh man, that was amazing. I felt like I earned that scene because you watched that whole
Right,
scene
yeah.
to build up to that." With the Rock Lee versus Gaara, you don't need any build up to it because there wasn't
Right.
none build up. So the fight can be enjoyed because nobody knows anything about these two. This is literally the first time we're seeing them legitimately fight.
Yeah.
So there's no way you can go into that scene missing something because there was nothing to be given.
Right. Right.
So when we were showing people the scenes, everyone liked the Gaara versus Rock Lee fight, and we're like, that fight would look cool for Sasuke, but I mean, I don't get it because they didn't watch it. They didn't,
Right. Yeah.
Again, they didn't earn it. So that's why I want you guys to see this fight because it looks pretty, it sounds
Yeah.
cool, it sounds epic, but all that shit coming up into it probably took away from it for you.
Oh yeah, because I had no idea what the fuck was going on.
Yeah,
I mean,
and then for everybody else, it was an addition. It was an addition. It was an addition. But for you guys, it was probably like, okay, what's going on here? I don't.
Yeah, there was also other shit happening, and I was just like, what is this? What's this? What happened here? I mean, the fight itself was cool watching that go down, but yeah, I guess to what you said about all earning it or whatever. Yeah, I wasn't read into the part of the whole thing, and it's kind of, I guess, if you look at in anime in general or anime that has fighting is the main crux of it, right? Kind of battles or fights or whatever. Right. I kind of think the way that they do it is almost in the similar sense of how they do UFC or how they book those, right? Or even like pro wrestling, for example.
Right.
How they book all that stuff. You got let's just say you got two guys that this is their first fight and they go out and put on a fucking just an absolute banger and they're just beating the shit out of each other and it's an amazing fight and the people go like, oh yeah man, that's so cool, and then the next fight is guys that this is like their 6th or 7th fight and people that have never seen them fight before, maybe this fight looks boring to them or maybe it looks shitty, but the people that have watched the last 6 fights know, oh man, they're doing this. They know all their weaknesses. They know all their strengths. They're now, and that's kind of how the Naruto and Sasuke fight is, because it's like, oh man, they're fighting, but they know each other so well, growing up and all this stuff, blah blah blah. And then you finally get to see essentially like the payoff, I guess, would be the end of it, is them actually fighting. Whereas to somebody who didn't get to live up to all that payoff or get to witness it, just as how you said it doesn't really mean anything. And it may look shitty to them because again, they're not. It's that how when they always talk about sword fighting and how it's usually generally real sword fighting is just one move and that's it, right? So let's say you got a couple amateurs and they're two guys that have just started sword fighting, but they're not that great, but they're just going at it and just ching 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 chinking swords and doing all kinds of crazy shit, right? Chinking off metal and everything. And then, oh man, that looks really cool, and that, oh man, maybe it's an excellent looking fight. But then you have two masters that are sitting there staring at each other and they're just staring.
The fight is in that stare.
Right, and they're just waiting. And then the second the first guy makes the move, it's already over. The fight has already been decided of what's going to happen. The outcome, just by him doing the one first move, that has now decided the entire outcome of the fight. And only one move is had, and then, kills him or whatever. And then, but nobody gives a shit because it didn't look pretty or it didn't look that great. But the people who stuck around and have seen the build up to that, oh man, it's epic. This is the only way this could have gone, or whatever the case may be. That was all I had to say about that.
Okay.
There's another example with Obi-Wan and Darth Maul fighting for the last time.
I was thinking about that too.
Yeah, that's exactly kind of what it is.
Yeah, there was like, you have the build-up from episode 1 up until, what is it Star Wars Rebels or
Rebels?
Yeah, is when they fight.
Yeah, so they're
at the end.
They have their scuffle, and I don't remember specifically what it was. I think it was Obi-Wan's stance that this fight was just done in one. I don't want to say it was done in 1 second, but it was done in one strike.
Yeah,
and that was it. But if you didn't enjoy it,
like I said,
from start to finish, from episode 1 up until that point, that fight might have not fit. You might not have gotten everything out of it.
Yeah.
If you weren't a fellow Star Wars enthusiast, but I mean, it might look cool or whatever, but the moment didn't mean nearly as much if you didn't sit with it for X amount of years, from episode 1 up until that. So
point. that pivotal moment, people who just got into, let's say, watching whatever it is you're watching, to them it didn't mean anything, or they would say, that fight was kind of dumb. It was just one move, but not knowing, kind of like what I said earlier about the other thing, not knowing the history of everything, then to you it was just weak.
In that same fight, like we were saying, the whole fight was happening in the stare down.
Yeah,
and. Was it like freaking Obi-Wan even baited Maul by going into his going into his normal stance, then he went to a normal stance, and then he went to the Qui-Gon stance, and then he pulled that move where he tried to hit him in the head, and then that's when he finished him. Was because he knew that move was coming because he baited him into that move.
Right. Yeah.
And then again, it was all done before the first swing.
Right, yeah. People that wouldn't have seen all that and known that just would have thought, "Oh, that's weird." Wonder why they did that. And then, because I do remember people, specifically for that thing, people bitching about that fight was dumb, blah, blah. Well, you didn't get it. That's all it was. It wasn't dumb. It's just you didn't get it. You don't get it. You don't understand. So, anyways. What else you got? What else you want to talk about?
So with Adam, did you...
Oh, sorry.
What was your thoughts on that scene?
What, the All Might scene?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm gonna be honest. There was like I said, there was so much shit going on between. I understand there's a lot of characters in My Hero Academia, but there was a lot of time dedicated to. I know All Might is not the main character of the series,
But this was supposed to be his scene.
yeah, but I guess the fight was so impactful that it was destroying the city and shit, and everybody was evacuating, and there was time dedicated to capturing all that and shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, there's so much shit. That was the part that was kind of like fucking me up, because I don't know who the main character is. I know it's not All Might, but
It's Midoriya, the green-haired kid.
yeah.
Young Midoriya.
I mean, it was cool though. I mean, to see these guys throwing these
City wiping out punches.
yeah, I guess you could say that. And then there's also the this never say die element of All Might. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like he's like, ah, man,
Yeah.
he's falling apart or some shit like that.
Literally, yeah.
He's falling apart, and
Well,
like,
to give you a little background. Or sorry, continue your thought. Sorry.
yeah. So I don't know what this guy's deal is. I imagine it's some kind of some type of Captain Marvel / Shazam situation where he's a regular person, but he gets to become this powerful person by doing something specific. I don't know what that is, but yeah, I guess this guy's power was diminishing, and I guess this scuffle was kind of like I don't know if it was the ultimate chapter of the rivalry between the two or whatever this is, but man, those punches were really sweet, and you could see like him reverting back to his like human form and shit. But at least like, All Might is gonna prevail or some bullshit, and like everybody was kind of scared, like, oh man, he's not gonna pull this one off. But yeah, I mean, it was cool for for what it was, but again, I don't understand the entire extent of that character, and without that, I don't think I could really enjoy the battle itself without knowing everything
Like, you can
about the
enjoy-
entire universe
Right.
of the anime. But it was cool.
Yeah, so you're able to enjoy it for like the action scenes and like the little tidbits, but you weren't able to appreciate it for the whole entirety of it that was being built up in that scene.
Yeah, and I think I saw some comments saying that for an anime to have battles in the same regard of Naruto with Rock Lee and the other character you're mentioning, Gaara or whatever, that you're watching according to this person that wrote a comment on a YouTube that YouTube video, they said once you have the side characters having an epic battle and you're just as invested in those characters as you are the main ones, like you got yourself a real special anime. I'm paraphrasing, but
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Just to go on a side note, that's one thing I actually do really enjoy about My Hero Academia is that, yeah, Midoriya is the main character, and like, one of the reasons why I hate high school animes is because, like, I don't know if you ever see the scene where, you ever played a game of Spot the Pro Tag in a scene? It's like a running joke where, like a Yu-Gi-Oh character, like, Yugi is the main character because of his fucking hair,
Yeah.
and like he's made to stand out and be whatever.
Yeah.
So there's always a joke about a game called Spot the Pro Tag.
Yeah.
Like everybody, their faces aren't even drawn. It's just like they all look alike. And then there's just this one guy with leather jacket with 20 buckles, fucking 20-foot long hair and shit. Like, oh, there's the Pro Tag.
Yeah.
So one thing I like about My Hero though is literally every character in there is fucking unique in that classroom, and they spend time on every single one of them has character development. It's not just the core 3 or the core 4. Every single one of them has episodes dedicated to them. Every single one of them has their unique personality that add to the scene and don't take away.
Yeah.
Like, and then it was, but just to give you guys clarification on that scene, All for One was a villain that has the power to take powers away from people. So say Josh has the power, he has the quirk that gives him the ability to shoot lasers out of his eyes, and I have the power to take powers. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yoink.
All right, now I can shoot lasers and you can't do shit. And then, as you saw in that fight scene, he was able to combine quirks to make his punches stronger and stuff. So his brother had no powers, and he just decided to make fun of him and give him a useless power. He gave him the power to stack power. So stack power. So, if one person plus one person equals two, so, that's twice the power. But what is that going to do for a person? But he failed to realize that he did have a quirk. He had the quirk that allowed him to transfer his power to another person. So those two quirks combined and became one for all to counter his all for one. So All Might is the 7th carrier of that power. So there are 7 humans that had it, and all their strength multiplied each time it got transferred until it reached him. So before the show even started, him and All for One had a big old final fight. And it literally blew out freaking All Might's fucking respiratory system and shit. Like, he has this huge gaping hole in his chest and shit. So he decided, all right, I have to find someone to transfer my power to. Through a lot of bullshittery, he transfers it to Midoriya. So now he's the 8th holder, the 9th holder, I can't remember. So now the quirk should, in theory, be stronger with him. But it's funny, the problem with him is that he can't use the power yet because he never had a quirk, so he never learned to control a quirk. So whenever he punched something, he fucking obliterated it, but his arm is completely the whole arm is bruised and his bones are dust.
Okay.
So the whole point of the series was him trying to learn to control the power. And so one of the side effects of transferring the quirk is that you no longer have it. So it was slowly fading away from him. So, and on top of that, because of his injury, he was on a time limit where at the beginning of the show, he can be in his All Might form for an hour a day. By the time the series ended, that fight was all he had in him. So he thought he killed All for One in that last fight. That's why he was like, oh, whatever. So while All Might was getting weaker, All for One was getting stronger. And I don't know if they showed the scene where he was making fun of him about Shigaraki or his I don't know if that clip had that scene where he was mocking him for that.
I'm not
I'm trying to remember.
sure.
I don't
Where
know
he's
if I
mocking him
remember
about the grandson.
that. I don't know if I remember that part.
Well, then,
Like I said, there was a lot of shit going on there. So, I mean,
see,
yeah.
again, you were able to miss things like that. Like, there was one thing that they missed that probably was All Might's catchphrase is, everything is good because I am here. Or, good, now we can get started because I am here. So that was his catchphrase. And so in that fight scene, when All Might was trying to save Bakugo from the rest of the bad guys, he kept interfering. Hey, you're not going to interfere as long as I am here. So that was a jab at him, at his catchphrase. And then All Might's personal belief is that if you save people with a smile, you're making the world a better place. And so that's why he told him that whole shit about Shigaraki was, oh, you know this guy you've been fighting? He's been leading the anti-heroes, and you beat the shit out of him not too long ago and all that shit. Yeah, he's your former master's grandchild that you guys abandoned. And that was meant to oh shit, I betrayed my master and
I'm
shit.
a piece of shit.
Yeah, and so he's like, oh no, whatever. And he goes, oh, what's wrong? Where's your smile? So there was those little taunts that were just oh, you dick. But to you guys, it was probably okay.
Yeah, I didn't even get it. It just went.
I think that was in the thing.
That one, I do think that was, but I didn't really understand it.
And just the whole smugness. He goes, where's your smile? Oh, fuck, I hate him. So that's why I like him. And then and then I told you guys in the last podcast, he names his attacks Detroit Smash, Delaware Smash, stuff like that. So his final attack being the United States of Sex or United States of Smash.
Yeah.
Again, in the Japanese, I'm sure that was a fucking awesome moment, and it would have been fucking American, I guess slang kind of ruined that scene a little bit, kind of.
Yeah.
But it was. So the whole scene was just fucking because of all that buildup, and on top of the shit, the whole thing with Bakio being kidnapped him and the main character used to be best friends as kids, but Bakugo's a little shit, which is why Josh likes him. He has an amazing quirk where he sweats natural glycerin from his hands, so he can make explosions, and he can also make himself fly and all this cool shit. So he thinks he's the shit. And it's not until he goes to UA, this high school for superheroes in training, that he learns I'm kind of basic actually. So he has an attitude issue and he hates Midoriya and all this shit. So the whole point of that scene was, he became friends with the red-haired kid. So that's why he told him, you have to be the one that calls out for him, because if I call out for him, he's going to ignore me.
Yeah.
So it was like, and then the whole scene is just of them building up to them rescuing him without engaging in combat was the whole thing. And so, again, to you guys, like, why? You probably were just like, just fight already. Just fight.
Yeah.
But in the reality, they couldn't because of rules set by the school and the fact that they'd probably be fucking killed by that guy.
And that's probably true.
And I don't know, for me, that whole scene where you can just hear the whole town literally crying him out, beat him, all right, and everyone's just fucking crying out for him, and he's like, yep, that's me, that's my power. And then that just scene at the end where he just knocks him the fuck out, and he just stands up and does the whole Rocky thing, and he transforms back into himself, and then Gran Torino, the guy who trained All Might, he's like, no, let him be. He's doing his final job as the number one hero. That's just him just doing that fucking pose. I was like, fuck, that's amazing. And like, that's to me, who's someone who's literally watched, who's not only watched the anime, but has read the manga.
Yeah.
As opposed to you guys who done neither.
That's another thing too that's interesting. Because this is kind of maybe going to be a side tangent, but similar to what we were talking about earlier about people who, don't have the history of watching something. With anime, it's almost, because most of them, or I would say a good majority of them probably, are based on a manga or essentially a comic book, for lack of a better term. People who don't know what a manga is, but I'm sure if you're listening to this, you probably know what the fuck a manga is. So people who have read the manga and then watched the anime, whatever it is that happens is even more epic in terms of, what it is, the impact on them, as opposed to some guy. Oh, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
That's also in static images too.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying too, because you go from having the moment, oh man, it's so epic to see it. You lived up to the moment, and then you get to see it on the pages as static. Whatever happens. But then to watch it go from being static pages to animated, and then it having even more of an impact on you.
That was why I asked you guys to watch episode 19, because I was going to bring this up. The animated, the liner and the animated, not animated, the liner, I forgot what the term is in Japanese, but one of the guys who worked on the actual manga for Demon Slayer, like, I guess he wrote the whole thing saying, like, oh my god, like, when he saw when he saw episode 19 actually live and animated, he said he felt like, what's the best way of it? From what I remember, he was saying, like, he felt honorated. Like, my work came to life in a way I didn't even imagine was possible. And so it's like something that he, like, showed, like, he loved that shit.
Right.
Because it's something he worked on. And I know you guys have seen Goku go Super Saiyan for the first time, right?
Yeah.
No. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, it's like this whole scene, the clouds come in, lightning starts changing, and Goku's just like, and like, Frieza's like, what's this? There's something in the air. He's like, what's this? What's going on? And he's just lightning, all this shit, and, and then just a fucking loud ass scream that echoes across this empty, dying planet. And he just turns Super Saiyan, and just chill. And then there's that iconic scene where he's just standing and his head's slightly tilted back, and it's just fucking epic. In the manga, it's just one little page.
Yeah, it's like probably even one square.
Yeah, no, it was one whole page.
Oh, just a whole page.
They gave one whole page. But again, it's just like, that must, as a manga reader, they're probably going, oh my god, this is so much better. It's fucking great. And going back to the All Might fight, there's a lot of fucking reactors that I was watching that were people who have read the manga, like, going, oh man, I know Bones is gonna do this justice, like, because they knew what was coming. They knew this shit was gonna be epic because it was fucking epic in the manga as well.
Yeah. And
it just fucking blew everyone's expectations, especially, to especially blow the minds of the manga readers is always a fucking treat. Because So let's just say, at the very least, it was 8 months. At the very least, 8 months between that manga's release to that anime being
Right, yeah.
to it being animated. That's 8 months. Again, hindsight of us building up. Like, oh my god, what I loved about this scene was so great, so great. It's just this part, and you start creating an expectation in your head.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when manga comes to life, the expectation isn't met because you have all that time to build that scene up in your own head, how you would want to see done, how you would want it animated. So that's why you always see a little disconnect between manga readers and anime watchers and anime onlyers.
Yeah.
But Demon Slayer 19 didn't have that fucking issue. This scene with All Might didn't have that issue. The scene with Goku going Super Saiyan didn't have this issue.
Yeah. Do you think that okay, because if you look at the same thing, let's just say for someone who wrote a book and then it became a movie, right? You know how there's always, the book's always better than the movie, right? There's always that whole thing. Mm-hmm. Do you think that because it's drawn like because when you do the book, when you read the book, right? You're using your own imagination.
100% of your 100% of that book is happening in
your own brain. You're the guy, the author is telling you what's happening, but you're visualizing it in your own head, right? Essentially. So, do you think that's why? Okay, somebody who reads a manga, because it's already visualized for you. Essentially, it's just not in motion, but the visuals are there, so you're not having to really use as much of your, imagination to kind of go, oh, okay, cool. Well, this is kind of what I would think about what this guy would look like being animated or doing the action, as opposed to, if in the anime when it comes due, it's man, like what you were saying about that. It's that water or the sword thing, right? The water effect or whatever. Is that what you're talking about specifically?
There's a lot to it.
Well, but I mean, we've talked about this before, and I have seen some of that scene or whatever, and I could totally not agree, but I could see how, this guy going from you watching this effect happen that he's maybe thinking about what it possibly could be in a drawn single static image, as opposed to then them taking that, and there's no book, right? There's no, because the book at least would have descriptors and tell you it would be able to describe to you that water glistening effect or whatever.
Well, so here's the thing, in the manga, and also in the anime, they never describe
what it looks like
because it doesn't exist. The attacks in Demon Slayer are just for our benefit, the viewer. In the actual show, that shit's not happening. So, like with Hanjo launching that water dragon, that's not what's happening. It's him just moving in a way where he's simulating the move of that dragon and he's striking, but it's not that. It looks like the dragon's doing it, but no, it's just him striking.
Yeah.
So, in that absence, it's different because they cannot describe something that's not there.
Yeah.
Because it's not there.
Right.
But I get what you're saying at the same time.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, to continue that question, Adam, because sometimes I have issues when I'm reading the manga, going from panel to panel. Sometimes I have a disconnect where I'm not able to connect both scenes together. Do you ever have that issue when you're reading comic books?
I haven't read comic books in a long ass minute, but yeah, it's not always evident where your eyes should naturally lead to sometimes. You start from left to right and you just kind of wing it from there, because there's people that get really creative with the panels and your eyes just wander to something that just gravitates towards you, but that's not necessarily the order that
it's supposed to be in.
But so what were you getting at with that question?
I was just saying because if you see this disconnect between scenes, in that sense, is that the with animation, say when they make a movie, when DC makes a movie from their comics, do you ever have moments where I see, where you have when you have an iconic moment in a comic book and it comes up in the movie?
Yeah.
Do you ever have a moments where that's how it's supposed to be?
I don't know if this answers your question, but since I was going to bring this up when you guys were talking 2 or 3 minutes earlier, because I don't know if this is exclusively something that the Japanese deal with, that because I know it's apples and oranges to compare comic books and manga to be similar.
Everybody likes to call the Japanese comic books just to fucking simplify it, but no, there's a difference.
There is a difference, right? And the same case for animes to American animation shit. I feel personally that when it comes to U.S. media and specifically like comic book genre stuff, from it being translated from the comic book to the animation, I mean, it's cool to see it. It's cool to see it translated to a live action type of thing. Not a live action, but an animated format. But there's a lot of things that are lost. Like there's things I'm just like, oh shit, I don't like that. Like, and then when it comes to the Killing Joke, the book itself, that book is like damn near perfect by itself. Like as just the
goddamn masterpiece.
But when you see the Killing Joke, the animated movie, you're like, oh my god, they changed so many things. Like Barbara,
that whole
Bruce. I'm like,
the whole beginning thing was just pointless. It was added to make it late, but when they actually followed the book, it actually got pretty good.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, oh shit, they butchered that. And then I have no interest in seeing the Flash movie, but I know it's vaguely about Flashpoint, the book itself. But I'm like, I don't even really care at this point because I know it's not going to be anything close to what the comic book is. And then on top of that, when it comes to manga to animes, I wonder if the Japanese are like, oh no, we're not just going to do things for the sake of making money. We're going to make shit that not only are we fans of because we like the manga itself, but we're gonna do it justice because it's our duty. And like, I wonder if there's a sense of duty to do the anime itself.
I think there is in the sense that
compared to the U.S. because I don't know about the U.S. I don't know about the U.S.
I would say that I do think that there is an element to that, but just as there's that element in anything even here. So if you've got somebody, okay, let's say who takes a beloved property, right? Let's just use, I don't know, what's something that's from like older days, the 80s?
Transformers.
Yeah, let's say Transformers, right? So let's say somebody's going to go ahead and take Transformers and do a modern version of it. Now, you could either get somebody that is doing it just because they want to make some fucking money because they know, oh, Transformers is hot. It's going to sell. We got this money, son. And then just kind of fucking put some shit out that maybe is meh. Or
Michael Bay.
You could get somebody that takes the literal, that was a fan of Transformers and says, oh, man, I have an opportunity to do something with this and make it better than it could ever be and put the hard work in or whatever you want to call it, give it the respect that it deserves and treat it right and make something completely awesome as opposed to someone who's just doing it for the money. And I'm sure that in Japan I'm sure that there are a lot of animes that have come from mangas that are shitty because the studio is just, oh man, we got to fucking make some money.
Like, let's just plug it. Okay, so I know this is off on a tangent, but I already don't like the fact I'm not sold on the Blue Beetle movie, and I know they're pushing him as a Mexican superhero.
Was he that in the comic books?
Yeah, well, I mean the newer Blue
ones?
Beetle is Mexican, but the old one, Ted Kord, he's a white guy. But
you don't get any whiter than Ted.
True.
The thing that bothered me is that I already felt like the studio was not. They're not reaching for the people that are qualified for the job. I could tell because they hired fucking George Lopez as the uncle. I'm like, fuck me in the ass, dude. I hate when studios do that.
Just to get a Mexican, who they think will draw in Mexicans.
Exactly. Like, oh my God, I might as well have just picked fucking Gabriel Iglesias.
Would have been better if they picked Gabriel Iglesias?
No, it would not have been better. It actually would have been worse.
Remember, I don't know if you saw the Looney Tunes movie, but they had him play Speedy Gonzalez.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
But to be fair, he actually did a really good job.
But he has that fast voice. He has it. So that makes sense.
But no. He even talked about it in his special he did at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah.
Where they asked him, hey, would you like to be Speedy Gonzalez? He goes, oh, did you guys pick me because I have I can do the perfect accent? Or did you pick me because I'm Mexican? So the contract is this. They wouldn't answer the question, but they...
Yeah, right.
Because when they did the line read, he did it in his Speedy Gonzalez voice.
Yeah.
And he said he looked at everybody like, that was perfect. Like, They weren't expecting. They just wanted his name.
Yeah, and I feel like that's where that's the pit.
Yeah.
That's the pitfall for like the U.S. when it comes to comic book movies and stuff. Is that we prioritize profit over
Art.
like the and like the art could turn into the profit, like if you just honor the material, like, and that's what I wonder about Japan is like, dude, does Japan, like, obviously everybody wants to make money for doing stuff they love, right? Yeah. But I wonder if Japan is like, all right,
it's a passion.
We're gonna make money,
yeah,
but we got to do like what you're talking about for Demon Slayer and for My Hero Academia. They're like, man, you know what? I appreciate the fucking manga or whatever, but we got to do this scene justice for All Might. Like, this is a really epic battle. We got to fucking translate that shit and make it 10 times better.
It seems like that because most of the time when there's a huge epic battle, for the most part, most animes do it right. Again, I don't read every manga out there, so I don't know perfectly word for word in each manga. But in the ones I've experienced, because like I said, I was asking earlier, like, I have that disconnect sometimes when I'm reading the manga. So it's kind of like with Josh when he reads subtitles, it takes him away from the scene.
Yeah.
For me, there's nothing taking me in the scene anymore. I'm not going back and forth trying to figure out the flow here. In the actual animated scene, it's fucking okay. I can follow it. And at that point, I don't know, it's kind of like I reach a moment where I'm like, I can follow it. Now I can absorb it better than I did in the manga. So there's a lot of times when, even if the manga anime did things different, my head is now, that's the headcanon for me now, because I didn't have to waste time and all this shit, so I absorbed that way easier than I did the manga. But at the same time, like, the fucking Naruto Pain fight was one of the fucking greatest fights in the Shippuden series. And one of the greatest moments in that scene is Pain gives this fucking amazing speech to Naruto. And the English version fucked it up. But the Japanese version, it was almost, I want to say it was word for word, but it was fucking, not only did the fucker make it word for word, he made it like flow in a way that was like, I believe that this fucking terrorist is doing this for the right reason because of this fucker's delivery of these lines.
Yeah.
So yeah, I believe that in Japan they see it more, they accept the art for what it is and work with that.
Yeah.
But to give America a break, there are some scenes you just can't translate from comic to animated movie. Like, I know the Court of Owls series for the New 52.
Yeah.
One of my most, even to this day, I still remember that fucking panel where Batman's going crazy.
Yeah.
And the book literally starts making you start flipping it around to follow the fucking spiral that he is literally going
the
down.
maze he's in, yeah.
And that was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But is there a way to translate that to animation?
Not really, no. There's certain things that can't be translated as far as the comic book medium goes.
Just to circle back a little bit on what you were saying, do you think that also kind of it takes it out a little bit from the manga version of it, because we are trying to also decipher from reading from right to left, where we don't, like, that's not inherent to us,
right? It's not inherent to us.
I do get confused a lot. I'm like, wait a minute, I fuck up and read the wrong panel and go, wait, what? And then, shit. And then I have to go like track myself back. And then, because sometimes it's not always, because, you know, in our comic books, it's always essentially left to right, top left to bottom right, essentially, if you're going to look at the squares.
Mostly,
if it's squared out, that's pretty much how it's generally done. But in a lot of manga, it varies.
It starts off to the right, and the whole right will have 1/3 of the page be the first panel, and then 2 panels, a third, another third, and like, it's
weird. It's like it'll take you from the top right, then you'll go to the bottom
of that
left,
same panel,
then,
because it goes all the way down.
Yeah, it's like fuck, or they'll do it in a third. And I know sometimes they do that in comic books a little bit, but in manga they do it. It's all the time they do that shit. And then obviously because I'm reading it from a different direction I'm not used to, I feel like it fucks me up, and I just go,
again,
what am I doing?
Saying. It's that disconnect that we sometimes get.
And then sometimes no, listen, this is just gonna be because I am dumb, but sometimes I gotta read it like 3 or 4 times before I actually figure out what the fuck's going on and go, wait a minute now. And I've never done that in a single regular, like a comic book. Never had to do that. It's only. So do you think maybe that's also a little bit of that disconnect you were talking about too, where that could be?
It's a different art style.
It's because of it's a different art style. It's a different medium also. But
Again, when I say art style, I don't mean the way it's drawn, because I know that's in the fandom of anime and manga. Art style is how something's drawn. I'm saying no. This is literally they do things differently than us. What is it? Scott Pilgrim versus the World. You know, it was a comic book first, right?
I think it was technically a manga, if you want to call it that.
No, that's the point I'm bringing up.
Yeah.
He was part of a group that was trying to bring that comic style, but to America.
Yeah.
So it was it was done in manga style, but it was still done in an American way. So it's that whole art style thing.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to say is that, like, when I say art style, I mean the actual whole way of doing it, not the way this one particular guy did it.
Yeah.
Because I don't. One of the cool things you can that people like to do, like with Naruto, when the manga ended, Tito, I can't say his name, the guy who created One Piece, he made a scene of Naruto of One Piece, but in Naruto's hands. He made a scene of Naruto, but in One Piece style. The guy who did Bleach, he did the same thing. At the time, he was retired, but he came out of retirement just to do. Kishimoto did a Dragon Ball Z scene, but did Naruto, but as Dragon Ball, like drawn in his style. So that's always something cool to see in manga. That I always like, even when they're not retiring, it's just like paying homage to another person.
yeah,
They'll do it.
I do kind of piggyback a little off what you said. I do want to point out something that is really cool in manga and whatnot is the art style of the original guy who drew the manga. They always generally make that the exact style of how it's drawn in the anime, whereas in American comic books,
unless it's one of those CGI ones,
right? Yeah, okay, sure. That's an exception to the rules, but in general, I feel like they generally it's not the same dude drawing it again, but man, they pay really good homage to that. Whereas in comic books to animated movies, it's never generally similar or whatnot. It's always because it's not the same. I don't know why that is, but I don't see that same kind of.
Well, in the art world, when it comes to comic books and manga, your art style is kind of your fingerprint, especially in Japan. I won't say especially. Like, if you ever notice, nobody does characters like Kishimoto. There's no other anime that does their characters to look like Dragon Ball Z characters, because that's his fingerprint. And here in America, I know. I remember I saw an interview with Kevin Smith. He was talking with Greg's. I can't remember his name. Something. He was one of the guys that did Batman at the time. And he was talking about, my style of Batman is I have huge traps. I have this and this. Like, every artist has a unique way of doing it. The only issue, the reason why it's different here is this guy can do Batman for like 3 years, but then he's gonna go do something else.
Right.
The same person that created the manga is the artist. So
and they're doing it from start to finish. That's it.
Yeah, I was gonna say the exact same thing, that for the U.S. there's like, because I mean, I think for DC or Marvel, you know that everything is going to ultimately be an ongoing series, and there's no finite end to anything
until a crisis happens.
And then it's like a sandbox. Like you get to play with the toys for a minute, like whether that's Batman, Superman, or Wonder Woman, or even fucking Iron Man, Hulk, or
whoever,
whoever it might be. But you get to play with those guys for like 3 or 4 years, and the team is always different. Whereas with like manga,
there's a finite.
There's an ending to it.
Mm-hmm.
So
unless it's One Piece,
but there will be an end, and the art style, as you were saying before, is influenced by the person that created it. Mm-hmm. So that consistency is like
it's a necessity.
Yeah, and I think that also kind of, not to knock American comic books or. But I think that also kind of hurts it. But then again, like if you hate a certain artist and you get that for fucking 30 years,
then you're just gonna hate it.
You're just gonna fucking hate it. But it's nice to get a break between artists and see different styles of Batman come up. But for manga, it's like that shit is usually good. Like whether that's Bleach or fucking Naruto, like you like the style usually. And it's kind of nice that you get that consistency throughout the fucking entire run, because I would definitely be turned off if I was reading a fucking manga and halfway.
3 years later, some asshole looks totally different. Yeah.
Filler asshole like can't draw for shit.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to speed run the book. They're like, oh, we have to pump out these next 5 issues. We need somebody to fill in for the big guy, the artist, because they're not able. They just can't do it. They're sick or some bullshit. But like they have this other person come in, and it just ruins the book. Like the art,
There's also a team involved in it. Like in American comic books, we have liners. We have the guys that fill it in and stuff. He had in the most manga teams, like there's the head guy, who's approving everything, and he's doing the lion's share.
Yeah.
But everyone else is like, hey, this arm didn't come out too right. Let me do a little adjustments to it.
Yeah.
You know what? That's good. Keep going at it.
Yeah.
And like, so yeah. At the same time, there's other people that are drawing it, but it's going through the big guy, like you said.
Yeah.
We're here in America is like, hey, I don't like that this guy's doing it fast enough. You can do it faster. It's gonna look like shit, but I know you'll do it faster. That's all I care about.
Well, and the big guy is just it's not the guy that's actually artistically involved with it. It's just a company that owns the fucking characters.
No, we're talking about the mangaku. I'm talking about the guy who's actually in charge of the project.
No, that's what I'm saying.
No, the way it works in Japan is the person, say for Naruto, because this is where I'm getting my most knowledge is Kishimoto. I think that's his name. Kishimoto. Kira Toriyama, that's who was Dragon Ball, not Kishimoto. I said Kishimoto earlier. But it's Kira Toriyama's Dragon Ball. Kishimoto, because I bought the first Ninja guidebook, and then he literally has a whole sketch of the studio and shit. And like, so basically it was him and four people total was working on Naruto, the manga. And so the way it works is him and his team make the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's it. They make the whole thing. And then they'll send a chapter to the editor, and the editor will say, hey, I don't like the way this guy looks in this panel. Can you do something about it? All right, cool. Now what? And then, so yeah, he answers to his editor.
Right.
But at the same time, most mangakas or manga writers have the ability to say no.
Right, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
They have the ability to tell them, no, take it or leave it.
Right.
But,
Well, because they're the ones that are creating the thing, right? But that's what I'm saying is like, okay, Batman, DC owns Batman.
Yeah.
So there's eventually, when you go up the line in the chain, there's some asshole who's not artistically involved with creating whatever comic book is involved with Batman, potentially making the decisions about Batman, this comic, and saying, oh no, I want this. And the artist can't say,
why do you feel like you're making a comparison to the American medical system?
I mean, it kind of is true, I guess, but but the artist can't say, the guy that they hired to draw the Batman in the comic, he can't tell him, I'll go fuck yourself, this is how it is. They'll say, cool, guess what, you're fired, we're getting a new comic, whereas or a new filler or whatever. Whereas there, if you fire that, you can't fully fire that guy because he's the one that
or
is
the team.
Yeah, right. They're doing the whole thing. You know,
they did do that once. With I'm not saying once, but of my knowledge, is Akira Toriyama said no. He tried to end Dragon Ball 3 times, right, from what I remember. And the people said, motherfucker, you are our personal fucking mint. You're going to make more.
You want to go for a fifth?
No. So he finally put his foot down and he says, no, it's ending with Boo. I'm done. And they say, well, fuck you. Because we're going to make our own Dragon Ball with blackjacks and hookers.
yeah.
And thus the story of Dragon
Dragon
Ball
Ball GT.
GT.
So he wasn't involved in that shit. But even that shit even followed his animation style.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't just up and change it after fucking however many years it's been, you know.
But at the same time, it followed his animation style, but did not follow his storytelling.
Yep.
But at the same time, though, like, again, that's the beauty of the editor in manga as opposed to the editor in comic books, because I don't know how the relationship is in that sense.
I have no idea, but so
Kishimoto Cell, like I showed you the scene with Perfect Cell. They kept denying his designs for him, saying, "Oh no, this is whatever." Like, no, they know. And finally, he came up with Imperfect Cell, and then he showed him what his ideas for semi-perfect and ultimately perfect Cell. So it took his editors telling him no, for him to whittle it down to what we saw. And so there's scenes where editors, they know the business. They just don't know your work. So yes, I want this to be my way. Hey, we can make it your way, but let's make this so it can hit more people. And so, like, there's a lot of scenes in Dragon Ball that are credited to the editors telling him, hey, this will work better if you do it this way. And him, like, okay. But then it's when Team 4 Star was talking about this, saying like, or specifically Taco was talking about how if he's unhinged, he's unhinged. Like when they let him make up his own characters, he's like, so you want to make Super, right? He goes, yep. I want to continue Dragon Ball in my own way. So who's gonna be the villain? Looks to his left. He sees his hairless cat trying to jump off the counter to get his food. It's gonna be a giant cat, and he loves food. And then all the others
Sucking his dick.
Just jerking him off in the hallway.
yeah.
Bravo.
Yeah, bravo. Oh, sir, that's genius, sir. That's genius.
But I mean, dude, Beerus is actually pretty sweet.
I like Beerus.
Yeah, I
he
agree.
ended up being
He's a great character.
And it's funny, like he has a brother called Champa, who's just a fat. He's fat.
Yeah.
And, like,
He's fat.
He's fat. And everybody jokingly calls him Thick Beerus.
You know what's funny? Like, as far as Cell goes, compared to like everybody else, I think even Boo is a better designed character. As weird as he looks, even like Kid Boo, looking like a shriveled penis.
I don't know, man. I have a love for Imperfect Cell because that motherfucker is creepy as fuck.
All right, but I guess point being, I think fucking Cell is like a really busy character, and I think it has to do with like, I don't know if it's the color palette or just how much shit he has going on that he looks like a praying. He's like a praying mantis or something. Whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck he is, he's got so much shit going on
It's
that he
like
doesn't
in the-
feel like a.
I get what you're saying. Like they even made a joke about it in Team 4 Star where it's like, I already lost the joke.
Well, thanks.
No, it's like he's almost doing too much. You know.
There's too much.
There's too much
shit
going on there.
There's too much shit going
And
on.
the colors are weird.
in the character
Yeah.
design, but he is cool. He's a cool character.
But he
nonetheless.
stands out. Yeah, he is a cool
he's the
character.
one that
Right,
stands
yeah.
out.
I think for me, what I take away, so Akira Toriyama is the person who created Dragon Ball, right?
Yeah.
I feel like the guy sticks with a lot of simple color palettes.
That's his whole- it's his whole thing. It's simplicity.
Simplicity, right? And Cell doesn't fit that.
Because he's that was the point. Because he's an abomination.
Oh, I see.
He's-
is that like on a meta level? Like
Yeah,
on
it's
a
on a
meta.
meta level. He's an abomination. That's the whole thing about
Oh,
him.
sweet. Okay, then never mind. It's cool then.
See, it does
Never
work.
mind. I get it now.
All right. Well, I guess that concludes that conversation.
Well, no, it's funny too because I was just saying they were doing the whole thing about like the best things from Dragon Ball to transformations, and one of the things that made Frieza work was, yeah, he was like, oh whatever in his spiky little short midget form, and then he turned into that big buff version. Yeah, it's cool, and then he turns to that freaking aliens ripoff form,
Yeah.
and but then when he turned to his final, most powerful form, it is the most simplistic version of all of the forms, and it is fucking perfect. It works. It works.
Yeah.
And so they were talking about how it even goes into Super Saiyan. All he did was change the color palette of his hair and his eyes. But instantly you recognize, oh shit, this is something big.
Yeah.
And all he did was just change the color. And I don't know if you've seen Ultra Instinct.
I've seen it. Yeah.
One of the complaints about it was it looked cool. It was fucking cool. It looked cool. It was gray hair. It was one of the aspect of
The aura.
simplicity. Yeah. But the problem was when it went perfected. And I mean, leading into it, it was one of my favorite speeches from Vegeta, where he's telling the gods of destruction, like he's talking shit to the gods. He goes, "Oh, if that's what you think," because they're saying, "Oh, that's it, Goku is done. He can't beat Jiren in that incomplete form because he hadn't mastered Ultra Instinct." And Vegeta's like, "Well, there you go." He goes, "If you really think that, then you truly aren't worthy of being a god." He goes, "What did you say, mortal?" He goes, "You just said it yourself. He hasn't perfected it. All he has to do now is perfect it." He goes, "It's the time he has left." He's like, "Motherfucker, we've been fighting for 40 minutes. And every Saiyan from every universe, whether it be ours or the other universe, we have shattered our own expectations. We've shattered your expectations of us. Do you really think he can't do it?" And then he starts yelling into Goku and saying, "I entrusted everything to you, Kakarot. Everything I am. My pride, my hope, everything is in your hands now. Now, trespass into the realm of the gods and show them who you are." Like, fuck, that's a great line.
Yeah.
And then Goku transforms. He masters it. He does perfected Ultra Instinct. The God of Destructions even stand up in reverence to this moment.
Reverence.
And it is the most ugly.
He's fat.
It is the most ugliest fucking thing I have ever seen in my life. His hair stayed the same, but it went from that cool grayish white to just fucking super bright white. The aura is thick and like it distracts you from Goku.
It's too busy.
It's too busy. It's like there's too much going on, and we're like, what happened to Toriyama to simplicity is best?
Yeah.
And then they made it worse because the Jiren goes to full power and he has his own thick, too much aura. And so when they're fighting like this, you're like, the fuck's going on?
There's all this thickness in the air.
He's fat.
And again, the fight doesn't get good until Goku is out of that form and him, Frieza, 17, and them three start teaming up on Jiren. And that's when the fight gets good and that's how it ends. And it's fucking great. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I just love, until that moment, I loved everything going into that scene. His hair was cool. And like, honestly, I think that's what they're doing now in the manga. I was hoping that Ultra Instinct was just going to be his base form. That was it. He was always in Ultra Instinct. Because we find out later that, all the angels are always in Ultra Instinct. So that's what I was hoping for. I was thinking, like, it'd be so sick if he just had his black hair with streaks of the gray or white of Ultra Instinct. Mm-hmm. And then when he goes Super Saiyan, there's still that white streak.
Yeah.
That would have been fucking cool. But they went too hard on it.
Yeah. All right. I gotta go take a piss.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, yeah, go for it.
Oh my god, I've been holding this for.
Yeah, I got to go next too because I had to pee. Anyways, what else you got, Frank? I mean, we're at an hour and a half, so I mean, what else you got?
I mean, we can go on for way longer, but this might be a good time to call it.
Call it. All right. So, what could the people maybe potentially look forward to for the next episode? Do you have any ideas for that?
Well, hopefully you guys watch that episode then, and then I'm gonna send you some more shit to take care of.
Oh yeah.
You'll probably have more. We'll probably have a little bit more in depth talk about abridgment.
Abridgments. Yeah, I like abridgments.
Yep.
All right. Awesome.
So we gave you our opinions. We're right. You're not. Too bad. Anything else, Josh?
Oh no, that's it. Yeah, I agree with Frank. Too bad, fucking assholes.
Okay, but seriously, at the end of the day, this is our opinions. If you don't like it, I mean, like I said, you're wrong, but, I understand you. I accept you. You're in a safe place. Go fuck yourself.